Chromaticism to jazz and to fusion music is what bending and vibrato is to blues. It's the thing that we do to make the scales and the arpeggios and the pentatonics that we use feel related to the style. The first thing we want to do is to understand the concept of target notes. Target notes are the notes that you're aiming at. It could be an arpeggio. We're going to learn D minor for our purposes. It could be a mode like D Dorian, which is the notes of the C major scale. Now, the first thing I want you to notice is that I'm exclusively using my middle finger. Think about the guitar like 6 parallel pianos and practice D Dorian, the C major scale, using this finger on each string. After you're able to target notes in this way on one string, the next thing you want to do is add chromaticism with your index finger a half step below each note. This is called approach notes. Here it is going up. Going up scale-wise, it doesn't work well because you keep running into double notes, which kill the momentum of a line. Meaning, between, let's say, approaching B and approaching C, you get this. That double B. I don't like that. But going down, none of that happens. Almost like a trumpet lick. Remember, approach notes happen on the weak places in time and move up to the target tone. So even when my target tones move down, the approach notes go up into them. With approach notes, if I'm playing not stepwise motion, meaning not scales, like a D minor arpeggio, I can use them freely going up and down. I'm not going to get the double notes. Check this out. Check them out over a track. Here's an example. The next tool you want to explore is called neighbor tones. Neighbor tones live above the target tones and they're always diatonic and they always move down. Now they're a little bit confusing because they sound just like a sequence when you're just using them, but you have to put them on the weak places in time. Check this out. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I'm going to practice them with my middle finger on the target notes. 1, 2, 3, 4. Going down, they sound lame because I keep having repeated notes. But going up triads or any arpeggio, it sounds really cool both ways. You have to be very careful when you practice and try to put the target tones on the beats and the neighbors on the off beats to where it's still outlining the harmony, not the extensions. You still want to hear, let's say, that D minor triad. That puts those chord tones, those target notes, in the center of the sound and allows you to outline harmony. This becomes very important when we deal with simple enclosures, but for now let's just check out one example of neighbor tones. Now we get to 3-note simple enclosures. Simple enclosures have an approach note and a neighbor tone. Check this out as triplets. What I'm going to do is first of all learn how to hear it rhythmically. So here are my target tones. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I'm going to practice going ti-da-da, 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 ti-da-da. To the target, to the target, to the target, to the target. That's the idea. Let's start with neighbor tone approach. At this point, it's becoming really clear why I'm using this fingering. You get to visually see that target note in the middle, and I'm surrounding it with notes, a diatonic note from above and a chromatic one from below. The ascending pattern would be neighbor, approach, target. When I get to the half steps in the scale, I'm using this fingering with my ring on the neighbor. Now to descend, I'm just going to start on the approach. Remember the time, put a da do do 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 da, or bi do 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 da do do da do do da. Something I like to do is start on a target and then move to the next approach of the next target. That will get you good in no time. Let's check out an example over the track. Cool. The next thing is the 4-note simple enclosure. So to do that, I'm just adding one target on the way from the neighbor to the approach, meaning that's one full pattern, but I'm still thinking about that last note as the target tone. So rhythmically, I'm thinking 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, da 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 the target da 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 da, or I can make it an 8th note thing, to do do da do 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 ba do 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 da do. But you learn how to shoot notes forward. Now this would be a great time to mention that when I'm thinking this way, I'm actively not thinking about what the neighbor tones or approach notes are in the scale. When I'm analyzing the music, I'm not thinking about it intervallically. It's just drawing melodic circles around points inside my target. So the target could be a mode, could be an arpeggio, but mentally, I'm not thinking about it theoretically. I'm not thinking about intervals. I'm just surrounding it with whatever sounds good, following the principle of notes from above need to belong to the scale, and notes from below can be chromatic. Check this out. Here it is around an arpeggio. That was a D Dorian kind of arpeggio. You have to know the mode because that's how you're selecting the neighbor tones. Here's a C Ionian. Now to play that pattern descending, I start on the approach. Let's check this out over that D Dorian track. Now the next level is Bebop Enclosures. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to introduce a new concept called chromatic neighbor tones, but you can't possibly understand how to use it before you have command over normal simple enclosures. So if you're still lost on that, spend some time practicing it. So now what I'm going to do is instead of this 4-note simple enclosure, I'm going to not play that target note as the second note. I'm going to play a chromatic neighbor. It's just tucked in time, but it's not it's bam. So those 3 notes are preceding the beat. Bam, right? Now I can't do that on the note that has the neighbor tone that's a half step above. So in that case, I'm going to use a double approach. See that? So I have 2 patterns. 1, and 2. Now I'm going to play the entire scale using that system. Now to get down, I'm going to start with an approach in 2 neighbors. Approach, neighbor, chromatic, neighbor, target. Now the question is, how do I get to the other one? So I have to use a double approach, neighbor, target. You hear that? It's a pretty cool system. Here it is over arpeggios. So now I'm just mixing and matching whatever shape I want because it doesn't matter. I'm not going to have those double notes that kill the line. Let's check that out over a track. Here are 5-note enclosures. Here it is descending. These you typically use once in a phrase or twice in a phrase and connect them with some arpeggio or scale playing, like. Here they are in the middle of an arpeggio. Check them out over a track. Another one you can do is a 6-note enclosure, and those are used all the time by people like Metheny, Schofield, Scott Henderson. They're really awesome on guitar, but now what I'm going to do is I'm going to break them up between 2 strings. As opposed to playing them like this, I'll play them like this. I especially like them on the G and B string because they're laid out a fret closer, which makes it a lot easier to visualize them. You can use them mainly on the whole steps in the scale, meaning the ones that have a neighbor tone that's a whole step above the target. So that just happens to spell out a D minor pentatonic in the key of C major. So if you spell out a D minor pentatonic on the B string, and then attach that pattern to each note, you get this. In context, you see lines like a 1, 2, 3, 4. On our Patreon, we have all this tabbed out, all the examples written, and a whole masterclass on this subject with a few more advanced levels like adding trills and little embellishments to this stuff. But be sure to sign up, hit the like button, leave a comment, do all the stuff, and we'll see you next time.